Welcome to the 199 Podcast with HVS. My co-host today is Josh Barnett, one of the owners of 199, a retro college apparel company. My name is Aaron Meyer. On today's episode, we're going to talk about the bedrock of Hoops movies, Hoosiers, how it connects to our lives, and how the core story of Hoosiers could become a Netflix series. But first, Billy Packard knows what time it is.
Jim, isn't it amazing when Michigan can keep this game to a 19-foot, 9-inch game inside that three-point line? It's all there. Nice move by Steve Fisher here. Turn it into the 19-9 game.
Before we get started, I want to encourage people listening to give us a rating and or review. If you would email or text a link to one other person, it would also be greatly appreciated. Not only are they going to get free entertainment, but hopefully they'll also learn about their new favorite apparel company. Without further delay, let's get started. What's going on, Josh?
What's up, sir?
Nothing, man. Friday afternoon. We are sitting in the recently upgraded studio, about to redo the podcast that I messed up last week.
You like this shit, though, huh?
It sounds incredible. I mean, we already have beta tested it on EJ, and he got his approval at least.
Yeah, so we upgraded equipment, so hopefully we sound a little bit better. And the last pod that we put out, well, the last pod that you
the
and
Blue
I
Blood sounded good. I listened to that last week, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I listened to it before I had to stay late for a game, and I didn't get to do the NBA pod last week with Joe, but listened to the Blue Bloods that night, and I enjoyed it. You guys, it was fun.
Well, thank you.
I'm expecting more on the Blue Bloods.
We're gonna get Dan down here again this weekend, so we're gonna.
He's gonna be impressed. He'll be like, "Whoa!"
I know. But the last one that we did, we screwed up. But I screwed up the one with Dan too. I didn't have both mics on, so I sounded like I was in a hallway. So I hope that I sound better now because I spent my life savings on all this shit. You better fucking appreciate it.
I do. Without further ado, though, let's talk about Hoosiers, man. I'm excited about this. Maybe more excited than you, but maybe in a week you've come around. Where are you at this week on it? Let's take the temperature.
I can't remember. What did I say last week?
You said you're going to play devil's advocate to all my Hoosiers, unabashed Hoosiers love.
Yeah, I think. Like as we talked about and as I thought about it, I actually loved it more.
See, I won you over.
I didn't. It was never about not loving it.
I know.
I mean, that movie is part of our fabric. It's who we are as Hoosiers.
Yeah.
No pun intended there. But now as I get older, I was saying in the last podcast, I gravitate more towards Above the Rim. He Got Game, and those two really Above the Rim more than any of them, which is kind of funny because the basketball scenes aren't great in that. But I don't know what it is. Tupac maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I think I do because this movie has the core of it too, and that's where I wanted to start is in setting the scene. The opening scene of this movie has that kind of landscape view, which sets people up in kind of time and place, which I think is important to this movie, especially if you're watching it today, because it can feel a little bit dated unless you're able to kind of transport yourself back to where this movie was set. I mean, this is 1950s Indiana, rural, and this is what it's going to look like. And it get that sense of space puts me in that place every time I watch it, along with the theme music, which I think is so important to a movie. When you have theme music that expands the storytelling, it can really be powerful, and that opening every time gets me.
Yeah, so the opening scene is awesome because it does just kind of set the time and the place in the old time truck driving around the old barbershop. Yep. And all that stuff and the different little towns and barns and people shooting, farm boys shooting on, like that's us, right? I mean that's who we are.
It is.
But the big thing that I always loved on the setting was the old gyms. I'm a big old gym guy. You are. Big old gym guy. So, like, I want to buy old gyms, like all of them. I want to own all of those. I don't have any money to do that or the resources to find them. But
you'd be surprised. They're not that expensive. I have a buddy who was a pig farmer and he is now, but his dad was at the time, and they owned a gym, so they might be available.
Yeah, I know.
You might own one someday.
We need to get out there and find those and do like a reclamation project on some of those. But Old Jasper Gym is in there.
It is.
And then obviously the Hoosier Gym up in Knightstown is there, and there's a lot of other ones that are just super cool, and I mean that helps with the setting too.
It does.
It's incredible,
no doubt. So the second part, then, I think where the movie pivots again is the practice, and I wanted to tie this in a couple different ways. First, I want to, before we get into the movie of it, I want to get into how you feel like Coach Knight, and especially talking just a little bit about your experience from, what was it, last weekend, where you got to see him come back to Assembly Hall, and just how he connects to the coaching or the version of coaching that was in this movie. And then, just start there. That
I always, and I've talked to you about this off mic, but I've always felt like I was always nervous of how Coach Knight's legacy was going to age in the kind of PC culture that we live in now. And I always felt like he wasn't going to get his just due just because of kind of how he coached and how he ran the program and kind of the stigma that is attached to him now, which I think is complete bullshit. I hate it. And it's funny because when you go back and you look, even Blue Chips that was in, 93 or something, 92, 93.
Probably a decade after this.
Who did Nick Nolte go and
100%.
mimic, and who did they ask to be in the film, and what team was it that they played against? Yeah. And then I'm pretty sure Hackman went and followed Knight around, or at least based his character somewhat off of him. And so when you look at people and you think back on people, I was in today's society and in the Twitterverse and all the shit that I can't stand, I think that people oftentimes go back and try to put a label on somebody without thinking of time and place and setting and stuff. So I think that Coach Knight maybe gets an unfair shake in that regard from time to time too. But his influence in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s in basketball is immeasurable. Period.
Yeah. So I'm curious, like, you watching the way that Coach Norman Dale comes in and coaches in there. Was that your experience in playing basketball? And how does it connect even now to how you think? Because you're doing a little bit of coaching now. Like, do you feel that bleeding in to the way that you think?
No, I teach first graders, dude.
So no part of you has like that sense.
You don't think I want to
discipline and fundamentals.
Oh,
first.
Yeah, you're gonna lock that ball in when coaches are talking. You're gonna have 10 toes on the baseline. This is Indiana, goddammit.
What about when you were in high school? What was your experience with that?
Man, I played for Coach Adams, Coach Patton, Coach Brinkmeyer, all at Wrights. Those are three great human beings.
So something similar. So when you're watching the first time,
no, they weren't similar at all. No. They were not. They were like good dudes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like nice players, coaches.
Yeah.
Didn't mean that I agreed with them on everything, but
yeah.
They didn't have much of the Knight style, I don't think. Back then, but I was late 90s too.
Yeah,
so the trends were starting to change.
I think they'd already changed.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. But way more. I mean, not nearly what it is now with this buddy ball friendly bullshit.
I guess I was thinking more the fundamentals and the focus on that, because that's something that frustrates me a little bit at times, is that the way people play, maybe it's more fun if I hadn't learned to play basketball a certain way, but playing with younger generations, especially now, it's frustrating sometimes when they don't move the ball, when they
don't understand how to play the game of basketball.
But I mean, sometimes it feels that way. But maybe
I'm being truthful. They don't understand.
But maybe I don't. You know what I mean? Like, because
no,
basketball moves on. I don't know.
You can't move on from the fundamentals.
No, yeah, yeah.
So listen, we're Indiana boys, right? So me and Knox were playing on our little Just in Times goal. There's a quick plug for Just in Times. They make some badass basketball goals that hang on your door. They're incredible.
It's that one, right?
Yeah, right behind me.
Yeah.
So we were playing on that, and even Knox, he was getting rebounds, And even on this little Nerf bullshit goal, I was making him practice his pivot to get out of me trapping him in the corner between the shoe closet and the window and the basketball. You know,
Pivot.
He has to pivot to get out of that, right? It's in our blood. We can't turn that off.
Pivot.
We can't turn it off. Pivot. Like, you'd be amazed at how little these first graders pivot.
Oh, my God.
Just pivot. You know, they get bent over one way or the other, and they can't move. They just become
just run with it or whatever.
concrete,
else.
stuck in concrete. Yeah. So I don't even remember what the original question was.
We were talking about that first practice, how he sets it up. The other funny part from that first practice is that the two guys just walk out. Like he's only got 7 guys.
And then one of them magically reappears at some point in the movie, and you're like, wait, hold up.
Back.
Where the hell did that guy come back from? I thought he got booted, and it's in the deleted scene.
I've got to say that has always frustrated me. I should have looked up I'm sure there's been an interview with the guys since then, but I'm just curious why they never decided to tie that. Would never happen.
Hard cuts, man.
But it would never happen today, right? Like, Twitter would eat the movie. Like, it might ruin the movie today if you didn't explain, like, just a weird loophole like that.
Yeah, but the same thing I was telling you in the last podcast that you screwed up was the Die Hard and the movies we love on Netflix.
But that's what I'm saying, is that an 80s thing where you could only do that because the movie came out then and people didn't, like, band together to get pissed off about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I saw an interview with them discussing that at some point, or at least read in a book why
it has to have been asked.
I can't
right?
remember exactly what the answer was, but I know it had to do with timing and cuts.
My frustration is that they
amount of minutes.
They kept the love sequence with Hackman in there and didn't explain how Buddy came back. I feel
they
like
had the perfect on-screen poetry.
You got to trade.
Just like chemistry.
Is that
it was just poetic
on Valentine's
shit.
Day? Is that how you
God.
base your overtures at home?
Yeah, exactly.
We take a stroll through an Indiana field, and
she threatens to out me to the paper for all the shit that I've done, and then we end up kissing, and she keeps me on as coach of the family.
She tells you that she's gone to the next town over, found out a lot of stuff.
I'm like, where? Like, I'm actually proud of you for finding that shit. Like, congratulations.
You went and got microfiche out? Wow.
I didn't even know you knew what a library was.
Again?
That's incredible. Good job.
Ithaca, New York? Oh, I did live there. Okay, the town meeting. So the movie starts to pivot. So we've got this kind of build up to where you can almost tell coach is getting fired, right? They're losing, guys are quitting. Jimmy is hitting shot after shot, but not playing for the team. And then we've got this town meeting. And I was just curious if you like the setup of this sort of first climax of the movie. Do you like the way they introduced the hero to us, I guess?
No, I wish Jimmy would have went to Terhune and the movie would have ended with like them losing in the first game of the sectionals. Of course I like that shit.
Oh, good. That's what I was hoping you would say. Maybe a leading question there. I could work on that a little bit.
No, I mean that's the climax, right? Because that's when shit starts going. Then we get the montage scene.
Yeah.
And Jimmy's hitting shots left and right, and town's running, or the town's getting behind
before
Coach
we get to the montage,
Dale.
though, we've got Hopper. Dennis Hopper jumps in there a little bit more.
Shooter
gets your favorite little story in there, which I still love to this day.
I don't know what the story is.
You do sectionals.
Where he's telling the story?
He's telling the story.
Yeah, that's when we're first introduced to him.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, 3, 2, 1, let her fly. In and out, we lose, but that's besides the point. Yeah, that's perfect.
I mean, he's by far the most quotable person in the movie, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I think low-key, I didn't do this, but there are some other quotes that I kind of love.
Well, like I've always wanted to walk out on my porch when somebody knocks on the door and like fire off a shotgun and say like, identify. Like I just want to do that one time to scare the shit out of everybody in the neighborhood.
I always love there are two kinds of crazy. One kind where you go outside and howl at the moon. The other kind where it's in my living room.
Right, exactly. That comes from Roger Dorn.
Yeah.
From Major League. I don't know what his name is.
Yeah. You didn't know last time either.
No, I can't remember. I called him Ed Harris, but that wasn't right.
Yeah. So then you were telling me that off mic, or what maybe it was last time, about your first experience with Dennis Hopper trying to get clean in the movie too.
Yeah, I hated that. It always freaked me out as a little kid. Like, I had no idea why the coach was trying to drown the assistant coach. It made absolutely no sense. I'm like, man, everybody's playing great out there, and it's right after the montage scene, and it just abruptly quits with the dude being drowned in a dirty ass sink water. And I'm like, does anybody care to? Do any of the adults around me that I'm watching this movie with care to explain why he's trying to kill his assistant coach?
And until you said that, I'd never even consider it, because I saw it later. I was older, and so I immediately
I was 7,
picked up that he was a drunk and he's trying to sober him up. But
right,
I got see.
I got that when he was stumbles onto the court. And
that's more.
I get that.
That's more obvious.
Glasses, and then ends up in the rehab or whatever. I picked that up as a 7-year-old. I did not pick up why he was being drowned.
Yeah, why they were drowning him.
Yeah.
So let's get back to the montages, because this is one of my favorite things that 80s movies do. I don't understand why there aren't more montages, because they're the best. You had a different take on it though.
The montages suck.
What? How?
I was fired up as shit for the Hoosiers one.
Okay, good. All right,
we're rolling now.
All right, good.
But the montages in, say, Above the Rim, where you got Tom Shepard out there just dropping buckets, but it's the same bucket over and over, and you're like, God damn, how many shots from above the right elbow has this guy hit that the ball goes in the exact same way, that the defender does the exact same thing?
See, I love it. That's what I expect from a montage. Like,
he scored like 36 points in 2 minutes of screen time on the same shot. Hit 18 of them.
That's what I want to see in a montage. Everything the same. Some great music over it. Just getting me fired up.
Hoosiers doesn't do a bad job on the basketball scenes. They really don't. And I didn't get the sense that you were seeing the same cutaway swish scenes
that's true.
every time, too. But Above the Rim, they definitely cut some corners.
Well, these guys put something into it, too. It's not like you mentioned Major League. I mean, sometimes they don't cast people who can play the sport.
Right. It doesn't look genuine.
Yeah, in the role of like the star. Like, you're like, oh my God, that guy's never held a basketball before. All these guys clearly, and I think everyone actually except Jimmy played college basketball, or at least played high school basketball.
It always pisses me off. That's always pisses me off about basketball movies, is these guys don't play basketball.
Like,
but then I also think, like, okay, if they cast me as the star, then I would go out there. The whole audience would be pissed. Like, this guy cannot act. Like, the basketball looks legit, but this guy sucks.
Yeah, that's one thing that even the people who aren't great actors in the movie do seem like they seem genuine. Like, I don't know if it's just because they pick.
Well, I mean, I feel like we could deliver lines like, "I'll make it."
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, maybe you might be right, but there's something that comes off about them that is not like insincere either. They seem like those guys, and that is acting.
Barnett, be out of breath when you play defense. I'm like, no problem at all. Let me get one defensive slide in here, and I'll be breathing heavy as shit.
Oh my God. Barnett, let me push you into a trophy case.
Got it. No problem. Don't need a stunt devil. Throw my ass in there. Yeah.
It's true. I mean, Dennis Hopper and the coach carry the movie, and those guys are great actors. So that's definitely a key to the movie.
What's the next phase?
So I want to get into the state tournament, because I think that's when the culmination of the movie. But I wanted to get your take too. We've had some discussions about single class basketball, and our experiences in that, and I kind of wanted to see where you were at with that. We're 20 some years out from it. It's not coming back, and we've been kind of back and forth. So I just want to see what your thoughts are on it.
Well,
your experience.
The last thing I want to do is give you a lead in to relive your glory days, like you did on the last pod that we screwed up. So I'm gonna be very, very careful with my wording here.
Don't worry, I'm gonna jump in anyways.
Well, you have a better experience with that. Like, where I stand on the one class.
Yeah.
I wish it still was. I understand why it's not. I thought it was definitely part of what made Indiana basketball and Indiana high school basketball unique. Mm-hmm. But I get it. I mean, the game becomes modernized and society changes, and the little guy wasn't winning anymore, or winning enough to give you that David versus Goliath matchup that everybody wants to see. But that's also what makes Hoosiers awesome. So if you are that David and you do happen to make it, they'll make a movie about you. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's some variables to it, but you were a part of the last single class state championship Final Four. You got to go.
Yeah.
Now, I don't need a rundown of the entire season with the silicone and all that stuff, but
People are going to want to know about that
I'm
now.
telling you, I think that's its own pod is what I'm saying. Like, I encourage you after we got done with it that you got to get a few of those guys on.
Already in the works.
And make that happen where you guys can just relive the shit out of it.
It's in the works. I already reached out to a couple of them when we were talking about blowing out some of these into their own sets. And I was thinking about the Blue Bloods thing and listening to that, and I was like, I agree. You guys could break down each one of those teams, why they're Blue Bloods, and I would listen to it just because I think each one of these like Blue Blood schools that you guys talked about have such history that you can get into the minutia about it, and I love that stuff, just basketball history in
it's
general.
fun. We have part 2 coming this weekend, so.
But there's no doubt about it that at least for that moment, the single class, like it was back at its zenith, and maybe because people realized
For
it was
sure
ending.
that it was ending.
Like that
right?
that was a unifying thing where
When-
some people were really mad about it, so their signs
When they
up.
announced that Twinkies
Yes.
gone forever, then Twinkies just disappear,
back all
sell
of a sudden.
out.
Yeah, someone's
and
gonna
then
buy 'em.
they'll bring it back.
Yeah.
They just haven't brought back one class.
Yeah,
But what was really cool about your story originally on the podcast that you screwed up,
yeah.
you like how I
Thanks,
just
yeah.
keep reminding you of that? I screwed it up just as much. But was that you were talking about how the town kind of got behind you and it was a big deal and, you guys were eating for free and everybody was
Yeah.
kind of, behind you and the whole town was up there and all that stuff. And that to me, so if that's still happening, I guess is my point. If that's happening, but it's happening on a larger scale and it's happening across a ton of different communities that reach the state championship, then who the hell am I to argue with
Yeah.
that? Because that's awesome. And I know we won the first sectional in 25 years at Wrights.
Yeah.
I played little to no role in that, but I was on the team.
Yeah.
And I just know what that meant to the Wrights community alone, winning a sectional. Taking that to regionals, semi-state, and then state, I couldn't even imagine. So if that is being replicated in these communities, but is it the same teams in 1A every year? Is it the same teams in 2A every year? Is there a rotation? Is there really only 4 or 5 of those schools that have the athletes to continually do there?
I mean,
I haven't broken that down or looked at any of that.
We live by some good teams, right? I mean, Heritage Hills is going to be good. They've got some good players now and
Right.
some good ones coming up. Bar Reeve has, so there are some kind of bedrock schools that have that culture, but I think that there's still more opportunity. Like the chances of that 1A school winning it is, movie level, right?
Right.
But them being a bedrock or consistent or having a shot at it every year, there are at least some number of 1A schools now that are in the mix every year. So there's more, right? Like I think it's just a math equation.
Do they do it like they do football? If you win X amount, you bump up to the next class.
Yep.
Is that basketball too?
You do, yeah.
Okay.
Which makes sense.
I
'cause-
love that.
Yeah, I do too.
I love it.
I do
'Cause
too.
Then it's opening up
And
more
then you can-
opportunities.
and-
If that's what it was all about to begin with, to open
Yep.
up the opportunities, then you can't
You don't
have
want
dynasties.
one exactly. You don't want one team unless you're at the top. Of course, then there's nowhere to go. So,
Well,
yeah. But
what are you gonna do?
and you can go back down then too if you're
All right, you guys suck again.
I
I'm
mean-
gonna have to drop you down.
I mean, because it should work both ways, right?
Well,
if
I
you're just
agree.
getting your
I
clock
agree.
clean.
Because you can have one just brilliant class come through there that's amazing and has studs and.
I mean,
That
that
happens
was our
once every
school. I mean,
20
our school's
years.
a baseball school. Like we've won more state baseball championships than any school in the state of Indiana. We went to the Final Four twice in the school's history in 100 years. So
Yeah, that's
it's
crazy.
not a basketball school.
Well, I'm super jealous of your experience,
It was great,
but I want to hear about it in a podcast
All right.
where you guys are actually talking to the people that lived it.
Let's do it. So that gets us though to the experience of the state tournament in the movie. I think that what was so cool about it is exactly what you said. Like you get to see a uniquely Indiana experience. I'm sure in other states there's some version of this, but the whole town. Like when they show the bus and every car pretty much from the town traveling with the team, like that happened. And not just like for that one team, like you said, for decades in Indiana. Like the whole, like these gyms, like if you look at I brought in that Hoosier Temples book, like if you look at the biggest high school gyms in the country, I think out of the top 20, there's like 18 of them in Indiana, which is weird because Indiana is not like a giant state. So the fact that we have all these huge, amazing, basketball arenas is just incredible. And they're not like big, like 1,000, 2,000. We're talking like 10,000 people in a high school gym, 7,000 people, 6,000 people in a high school gym. And they were packed. Like I went and played at the Wigwam at Newcastle. It was wild to see that many people because I was not good, and I mean, we were on some level, but not like, you think like people go to see the Hoosiers play or pro teams. That's one thing, but to be lining up like that to high school, it has to be about the community and about the kids out there as much as it is about the product on the floor. Like you have a personal connection to those people more so than you would the guys on a college floor or a pro team. And I think that's what was unique about Indiana is that town and Hoosiers are behind those guys because they knew every one of those guys. They showed up at that town meeting, right?
Well, it's also a kid thing too. So like I basically knew I wasn't going to play high, mid, major college basketball. I'm 5'10" and white and can't jump and slow and all that other shit, right?
Check all the boxes.
Yeah, every one of them. Intramural stud.
Yeah.
But so like for me, I would want to take my sons there because they could be that guy that's out there. They could, I want you to experience that. I want you to experience it. Number one is Indiana basketball. Yeah. And I want you to experience number two, how cool it is. And then I want you to aspire, if that's what you choose to do and you want to be a basketball player, that can be you on that stage. And I always loved that as a little kid. Like I grew up wanting to be a Rights basketball player. I didn't care about IU and Duke or any, like later on that becomes part of it, but at the end of the day, I pretty much just wanted to be a good Rights basketball player. It meant a lot.
Enough, right?
It was enough.
Yeah,
it was, and it's still enough.
Yeah,
like, I'm still happy with that.
Agreed.
So, I think that's where it comes from. And Rights made that great run several years ago to the state championship, and we went to Southport, I think, for the regionals or semi-state, and it was standing room only. Yeah. I mean, it was just out of control.
Yeah.
It was out of control.
Yeah. Was it good? I think we're coming down. I feel like it was good that the single class went when it did. I think that with the way that social media has gone, the internet, TV, everything was working against it. I think that, it peaked at the right time, got more people involved. But where do you come down? Do you finally, or would you still be?
Honestly, I give you a lot of shit because I like to play devil's advocate, and I think it's funny to try to trip you up on these things. Yeah. But you've convinced me a little bit, and like I was saying in the last podcast that you obviously screwed up, that my uncle played on the 67 North State Championship team.
Yeah. And
so that was single class, and they won it all. Yeah. Him, Bob Ford, he started on that team. Bob Ford was the star of that team. And he's all in favor of of the multi-class. Yeah, just because he was like, it was cool as shit. And so if more kids get to experience it, then I'm all for it. I think from the outside looking in and not having a kid involved in any of that stuff, if my kid went to a 1A school and they made it to the state championship, I'd think it was the greatest thing in the world. From the outside looking in, I look at it more from who we are and what we in the single class is what helps set Indiana basketball apart. And I hate it. I hate that we lost that. Yeah. That's selfish. But it is what it is. I mean, that's where I'm at.
I think that if it's one of those it's one of those Pandora's box. Once you open it, you can't go back, because you do realize what the experience is. But before it happened, it really was enough to win a sectional. Like my father-in-law showed me the paper the other day. He's like, this team was the greatest team in Jasper's history, and it was in the paper. Like, I mean, it's probably 50 years ago, and it's like a whole recap of the season, and they lost in the sectional or the regional. I'm like, wait, they didn't even make it to semi-state or
Doesn't
state.
matter. That
And,
was
I
their
mean,
state.
he was like, this team was like. I mean, 50 years later, he's like pumped about this team, and
That's
I'm like,
hilarious. That's
and
awesome.
I read the article, and it was, and like the article was well written, and I mean, I was like, I could see how this was a really good team for the time, and I think that the mindset was such before they let it out, like that you could generate this matters as much as a state championship, but once you let it out, you can't put it back. You can't put it back. So,
and that's a shame for
and
me.
it
It's a
is.
shame.
It is from like like you said, from an outside perspective. I think for the individuals experiencing it, they don't even know at this point. 20 years on, they won't even.
Now, I will say this: if we have class basketball and we're going to stay with class basketball, please put the state championship games in Hinkle.
Yeah. Why
Put
not?
it in Hinkle.
Why not?
Get them out of Banker's Life.
Yeah.
Put it in Hinkle where they belong.
Put them at Newcastle.
Put them at Hinkle, like I said, where they belong. Right? Where all the history is.
Yeah.
A smaller arena than Banker's Life.
Yeah.
Looks more crowded.
Looks
it's going to
better.
get louder.
Just looks better, period.
I would literally go to as many of them as I could go to.
Yeah.
I have no desire to go to a state basketball championship game at Banker's
Life.
Life. I have no desire.
Yeah.
I would
go
go
to see the
a lot.
Pacers if I go there.
Exact. 100%.
Yeah.
I miss Pacers games,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah, they're good this year. All right, I want to end on this. First, tell me a little bit about the Hoosiers caricature shirt, because I don't do a lot of plugging of 1990 stuff on here. Maybe I should do more, but I do love. I almost wore it today. I do love the caricature. So I'm just curious how it came to be, and then anything else you got on it.
We worked with Adam Ballinger for it. He's an Indiana boy. Went to Michigan State. Won a national championship at Michigan State.
The last Big Ten national championship.
Embarrassing.
It is.
And he's in Australia now, so we linked up with him. And originally we wanted to do just a Jimmy Chitwood caricature, but then I didn't feel like that captured everything. Like there's Shooter, there's Norman Dale, there's Buddy, there's Ray, there's all of them, right?
Yeah.
So Strap and all those guys. So I'm
Look at
like,
you rattling it all.
oh man, I love those dudes. So I just wanted to do like a whole team. I thought it'd be cool to kind of capture the whole team. And then we worked through the Hoosier Gym, which is a non-for-profit. So a portion of of each sale of both of our Hickory shirts goes back to the Hoosier Gym to kind of keep it afloat. So
good. They need it. Those old gyms take some upkeep. But
It
there've
does.
been
I've
some in
heard
Indiana that have gone under.
I've heard some rumors about the Wigwam and the Court Wave, and then I'm ready to go rescue that thing.
We're gonna make a new
Somebody
table.
let
Let's
me
make
know.
a new table out of it.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. So, yeah.
And then the other part I wanted to end on. So I have a love for TV more over movies most of the time. So I kind of want to turn Hoosiers into like a 7-part Netflix show.
No, you don't.
I do.
No, you did.
I did. You're right.
And then
You had a better idea. It wasn't. I still feel like my idea is not terrible, but
your idea
yours is better. And
is
I'm willing.
borderline terrible. My idea is a lot better.
All right, well, go for it then.
So my argument was the Hoosier story has already been told. So there's a movie that won an Oscar, and you're not going to get better than that. Period. You're just not. And it would be a disservice to try to do that, I think. The real story that I would like to see in a Netflix series, and the real story that needs to get its just due, is the Crispus Attucks teams.
I loved that idea then as soon as you said it. And you showed me a video last time after we got done.
Yeah,
which,
the crazy song.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Like,
so it was awesome. We got to meet the.
how is that not a part of pop culture already? Like that'd be so perfect.
It's so good. I mean, they just basically talk shit through singing a song
I was like,
during the game.
remember the best parts of Remember the Titans were like, oh man, this is great.
Yeah, it was
I love
phenomenal.
this.
So we got to go and meet the Crispus Attucks team, and they had some of their cheerleaders there, and we got them to do the crazy song. That was several years ago at Hinkle, and we
So cool.
did a Crispus Attucks shirt that we gave to them and stuff. And then I know that there was the the 30 for 30 short Black Hoosiers, which follows it and stuff too. But there's such a great story to tell, and it's not just related to basketball. Basketball is a theme because they kind of rise to prominence and win the state title. They cross with that Milan team that Hoosiers is about. But the story behind Attucks and why it was built in the segregated schools, but what they did unintentionally, if you talk to the Attucks people, is they put all these great minds in one place at one time, where the students talk about their teachers in a way that we wish that our kids would talk about us. And you're just talking about brilliant minds, and you're talking about a school that produced doctors and attorneys and all kinds of successful people away from basketball. It's just an incredible story that you could hit on a lot of different areas with it, and it wouldn't do it justice to tell its story through a 2.5 hour movie.
Right. You could and that was my idea, is that you could blow it out. I mean, I didn't want to just do the Hickory Huskers or the Milan team. I mean, I was like, the Muncie Central team deserved some takes on that too. Like, what else is going on in the state of Indiana? Because that's part of the story of the United States during that time too, like the 50s, like what. And
I love all
wild,
that,
right?
Like I love watching stuff, documentaries and all that stuff on civil rights and just the way things,
just how it started. That's the genesis
of
that is like, it's hard to even put myself in that time period, because it's before, just everything I think of is like post 60s basically, and to think like even in Indiana it wasn't like that is just, it's just odd.
So all we need is a director, a producer, some funding, a studio, and some actors. We can make this shit happen.
Netflix, get at Josh Barnett. He's available.
And just at the very end, it says like idea by High Volume Shooters in '99. Like, we're not even a part of any of it, which would be perfectly fine. Yeah, perfectly fine
with that.
I'll be an extra, like somebody getting dunked on.
Definitely an extra. Oh, I'm getting in there.
I could play that role to perfection.
Yeah, I'm shooting the 2-hand set shot and getting my stuff swatted. Thank you for listening to the 19.9 podcast with HVS, the High Volume Shooters. For more information, check out the blog at 19.9.com under HVS. And while you're there, do yourself a favor and pick up some retro college shorts. Till next time.